Hey everybody, Zara here once again with another bonus video for X2. Just basically, once again, running through everything I missed or didn't really get a chance to talk about. First thing, I forgot to show off all the special weapons, all the charged special weapons. You saw a few of them, but there's a couple that I missed. Speed Burner, obviously we know and love. I was trying to make that Scorpion respawn, but he wasn't being very friendly, so moving on. The Magnet Mine basically shoots a black hole that does quite a bit of damage, but it's slow moving and not particularly useful. Strike Chain is basically the same thing, just bigger and longer. The Sonic Slicer is the same as the attack that Overdrive Ostrich uses in his boss fight, and is, as you saw, pretty useful against when fighting Surges for the second time. But the wheel is that, so yeah, not particularly interesting or useful. But the Silk Shot, on the other hand, can be used with some of these secret rooms, like I mentioned. And you can get a whole bunch of weapon energy or just regular energy from it. If you're not in one of those rooms, this is what the Silk Shot does. It just makes a big pile of junk on the end of your weapon. If you run into anybody, that'll damage them, or you can just shoot it and it'll break into a whole bunch of parts. Bubble Splash basically creates a little force field of bubbles around you that will damage anything that they touch. It's actually pretty useful, but the downside to it is that you can't switch weapons while it's active, so you actually have to pause the game, switch weapons, and then go back, because you can't use LNR to change it on the fly. The Crystal Hunter is the same as Crystal Snail. It just slows down time. You might think that's really useful, but the issue with it is that it slows down your enemies, and it also slows down you. So basically all it does is give you a little bit of extra reaction time. It looks cool though. And that's all of the special weapons, but just for one old time's sake, one last time, show off the super weapon, the Giga Crush, I think it's called. If you're underwater, and since fire doesn't work underwater, if you use the Speed Burner underwater, you get this instead. Basically, it's kind of how the Speed Burner works, I guess. The Magnet Mine, I showed off right here, has kind of a secondary ability. It sucks up small projectiles, like the torpedoes and little depth charges that submarine was dropping, were all getting sucked up into the black hole and just blowing up. So that's kind of neat. But again, it's still not too terribly useful, especially if you know what you're doing in the game. But the main reason that we're here is for the Bubble Splash, because it's got kind of another useful ability. If you're underwater, it lets you jump a lot higher than you normally would, which is actually how you're supposed to get up here and get the energy tank on that little ledge. And again, I'm showing that you can jump on the surface of the water. You can go indefinitely too. I've tested it, and you never really run out of attempts. But yeah, and that's all the special weapons. Although they do have one other ability. You can use them in Wire Sponge's stage to change the weather effects. If you shoot those purple orbs, it'll change the weather, depending on what weapon you hit them with. In this case, hitting them with bubbles, with water, makes it rain. Normally it's supposed to be really hot in the first section of the level there, but we made it rain instead. But in this section, it's supposed to rain. So if we hit it with the speed burner, obviously it'll make things nice and hot again. It kind of makes some of the platforming a little bit easier, especially in that section. But all in all, it's mostly just kind of a neat little detail that doesn't serve a whole lot of purpose. It is fun to do, though. And there is one other weather effect that we have not seen yet, and that is if you use the Crystal Hunter. If you hit one of the orbs with that, it'll make everything all foggy. I don't know exactly what it does, because in that section I just passed, there were no enemies there. Usually there are, but for some reason there wasn't. I think it kind of eliminates some of the enemies. These guys are still around, so I don't really know. I don't know exactly what it's supposed to do, but there you go. Speaking about weapons, if you hold down the attack button on the ride armor, it spins the spikes on the front, and any enemies that walk into that will take damage and will bounce away from you like this. And then when you let go, you do like a charge attack with it. Again, it's not overly useful, but it's a neat little detail that they added into the game that is pretty fun. And back when we were fighting Agile, I mentioned that there are two situations that the Shoryuken comes in handy. This is the other situation. Unlike the first game, the special Easter egg weapon actually affects Sigma's final form, and it's actually pretty useful against him. 2 clear shots from it will kill him, just like this. So it definitely makes the boss fight a little bit simpler. And that's Mega Man X2.